Hello everyone, this is Sean. Today I'd like to share my approach to learning. You may have heard of the mind map. It uses clear logic and structure to provide a systematic overview of knowledge, much like a chemical structure formula. However, does anyone feel that something is missing? For example, you might feel like you mastered the material, yet when it comes to solving problems, especially synthesis problems, you are stuck. In fact, mind maps are excellent for describing individual knowledge points and helping you build a framework. However, they lack interconnectivity. Each piece of knowledge is listed in parallel, isolated from the others. You can't see what happens when they combine. This gives you a rather one-dimensional perspective when solving problems. To use a simple analogy, how to screw a screw. If we treat how to screw a screw as a course, you know what you'll learn: the history, characteristic, and the functions of screws, the history, characteristics, and the functions of a screwdriver, how to use a screwdriver on a screw, Phillips head, flathead, or cast of driver heads. It might even add that knowing how to screw a screw is a very useful skill these days. Ignoring the merits and the demerits of the course itself, it still makes you only think of using a screwdriver when you need to screw a screw. This isn't determined by whether you are naturally clever or not. It's caused by a rigid knowledge system. What if there's no screwdrivers around? Someone who learned this course through mind map would go looking for a screwdriver, but someone who thinks in a spider net way would want to try using pliers to grip the screw and turn it in, or even turn it with their hands, ignoring other factors like whether it's tight or loose. That's the difference. So, spider net learning is a term I coined, but its inspiration comes from the highway mentioned by Scott Young in his book Study Less, Learn More. However, I don't feel particularly strongly about it, but I do like its fresh approach. As the name suggests, SpiderNet learning is just like a spider net, full of connections and sturdy. Connections mean that every node in the spider net is linked to another knowledge points. You can not only view a problem from a physical perspective, but also think about it from the angles of chemistry, biology, economics, and more. Study means that when you approach a piece of knowledge, you no longer see it in isolation, whereas other knowledge perspectives helps you understand it more deeply, and in turn, this knowledge helps you consolidate your grasp of other knowledge points. Let's take tightening a screw as an example again. The logic of using a screwdriver allows you to turn a screw, and its essence lies in rotation and force. This is what a screwdriver does. Are there other things that can achieve the same effect? Searching from your own spider net of knowledge, you might connect it to pliers or even your own two hands. Moreover, you might realize that your hands can actually do this task and they are not as fragile as you thought. Pliers can also perform the tasks of a screwdriver. In this way, connections are formed between these two nodes, depending your understanding. I don't deny the excellence of mind maps. Now, let's take the SpiderNet learning method. What if we want to teach it to others? You might feel like you can do anything and know everything, but your students might exclaim, "Oh my god, why is there so much content and it's so difficult?" These two approaches are like drawing. One is finished masterpiece. The other is a foundational sketch and outlines all things. Using analogies is also a concept from Scott Young. Connect new ideas with what you already know and look for similarities. You see, we've just built another connection. All in all, SpiderNet style learning is not difficult. Once you start to shift your approach, you can make the change right away. Thanks for watching.